She stood right there at my front gate, hands on her hips, yelling at a group of strangers like she was the queen of the world. "Park over there. It's open space. The HOA approved it." I froze for a second, just watching in disbelief as a dozen cars rolled onto my land like it was some kind of shopping mall lot. Dust kicking up, tires pressing into my grass, and one big old truck even scraped the side of my fence. My stomach burned with anger, but I just stayed quiet, just staring at this woman barking orders like she owned the place. She waved a clipboard in the air and said loud enough for me to hear, "This whole ranch is under community parking now." Rules are rules. That's when I started to walk toward her, trying my best not to explode, my voice low but sharp as I got closer. "Excuse me," I said. "Who told you this is parking?" She turned with that smug, entitled look, the kind that dares you to argue, and puffed out her chest. "The Lakewood Hills Homeowners Association," she declared. "I'm the board president. You can't stop us. This is community land, community land. My family's deed to this place was older than her entire HOA. But instead of shouting, I just smiled a little. Something told me this woman had no clue who she was messing with. "That's interesting," I replied, glancing at the strangers now stepping onto my property, kids and coolers in tow. "Because last I checked, I'm not in your HOA." Her face twitched, but she quickly doubled down, her voice getting sharper. "Don't play dumb. All land around here falls under our authority. You don't like it, call the cops." She said it like she'd already won. But what she didn't know was that calling the cops was the very last thing she should have dared me to do. I pulled my phone from my pocket, and before I could even dial, she snatched a walkie-talkie and barked into it. "We've got a hostile resident at the old Miller Ranch. Sent someone." Now, a few minutes later, two men in faded security uniforms pulled up in a dented SUV with HOA enforcement stenkled on the side. They jumped out, puffing their chests like they were real cops, and one of them actually said, "Sir, step aside. This land is now regulated parking under HOA jurisdiction." I almost laughed, but my jaw just clenched instead. Jurisdiction? I fought for this country overseas, and this guy thinks he has jurisdiction on my front yard. "Show me your badge," I demanded. The guy just flashed a cheap tin plate clipped to his belt. Looked like it came straight out of a toy store. "Failure to comply will result in fines and possible removal," he said, trying to sound tough. Behind them, cars kept pouring in, headlights sweeping across my barn, kids hopping out with coolers like it was some kind of carnival. One truck nearly hit my dog who was running across the field. My fists curled into tight balls. "This is trespassing," I said louder this time, enough for everyone to hear. "Get your cars off my land now." The HOA president, whose name I found out was Carol, strutted up beside the fake cops and hissed, "You're embarrassing yourself. Everyone here knows the HOA runs this neighborhood. You don't stand a chance." I took a step closer, looked her dead in the eye, and whispered just loud enough for her to hear. "Lady," I said, my voice as cold as steel, "I fought harder people than you overseas, and I don't lose on my own ground." Her smirk faded for the first time. The fake cops stiffened when I said that, but instead of backing down, one of them reached out and tried to grab my arm. "Sir, you're resisting HOA enforcement," he barked. My blood boiled. I shoved his hand off and pulled a folder from my truck's glove box. Inside was the original deed to my ranch, signed over 100 years ago, passed down through my family. I held it up high for everyone standing around to see. "This land is mine," I shouted, my voice echoing across the open field. "Not the HOA's, not hers, not anyone else's. You're all trespassing." Some of the strangers started looking uneasy. A couple of cars even backed out of the lot, but Carol wasn't giving up. She snatched the deed from my hands, waving it around like a trophy. "This paper means nothing. The HOA overrides all of it. You think a piece of old parchment scares me?" She sneered. And then she crumpled it in her fist. For a moment, I felt a sting like she had just spit on my family's history. My great-grandfather built this ranch from nothing, and she was crushing his legacy in front of a crowd of strangers. I steadied myself, then pulled out something else from my truck, my military ID. I held it up firm and unshaking. "You just destroyed government property, ma'am," I said, my voice low. "That deed is registered and digitized with the county clerk. And now you've added criminal damage to your list." The fake cops froze. Carol's smirk vanished completely this time, and the crowd started whispering. One guy muttered, "Wait, he's military?" I didn't have to say another word. The shift in the air was already happening. Carol's voice cracked as she tried to recover. "Don't listen to him. He's bluffing. The HOA has every right," but the crowd wasn't convinced anymore. A woman loading her kids back into an SUV muttered, "I've never seen an HOA with cops before." Others started looking at the fake badges more closely, realizing how cheap and fake they looked. The taller officer stepped forward, desperate to take control. Everyone calmed down. "Show enforcement has full authority here. If this man doesn't comply, we'll arrest him." He reached for his cuffs, plastic ones, the kind you'd see at a Halloween store. That was my final straw. I stepped back, pulled my phone out again, and hit dial. "Yeah, sheriff's office," I said loud and clear. "I've got 2 men impersonating officers and trespassing with an HOA mob on private property. Yes, I'll hold." Carol's face turned ghost white. You can't do that. The HOA handles its own disputes. Real cops don't interfere with us." I tilted my head, half smiling. "Then you shouldn't worry when the real sheriff shows up, right?" The fake cops exchanged a nervous glance. One of them whispered, "Maybe we should go." But Carol snapped at him. "Stand your ground." He's lying. Too late. The sound of sirens echoed down the road, growing louder with every second. The headlights of a patrol car cut through the night, and you could see the entire crowd shift uneasily. Carol muttered under her breath. This wasn't supposed to happen, and that was the first honest thing I'd heard her say all evening. The patrol car rolled up fast, tires crunching against the gravel as 2 deputies stepped out, hands resting near their holsters. The sirens died, but the red and blue lights kept flashing across Carol's pale face. "Evening," the sheriff said calmly, scanning the scene. "Got a report of trespassing and impersonating law enforcement." His eyes locked on the fake cops, and instantly they looked like kids caught stealing candy. Carol rushed forward, flailing her clipboard. "Officer, thank God you're here. This man, he's out of control. He refuses HOA rules. He threatened us, and he's endangering the community." The sheriff didn't even blink. "Ma'am, this ranch is outside HOA jurisdiction. I've seen the county maps myself." He turned to me. "Sir, are you the landowner?" I nodded, pulling the wrinkled deed from Carol's fist. "Yes, sir. My family's owned this land for generations." The sheriff studied the deed for a moment, then shot a glare at the fake cops. "And you two, step forward. Show me your credentials." They hesitated. One of them stuttered. We work for HOA enforcement. We don't need county credentials." The sheriff's jaw tightened. "Impersonating an officer is a felony in this state. Hands where I can see them now." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's voice turned shrill, almost panicked. "You can't arrest them. They were only following my orders. This is HOA business." But the deputies ignored her. One moved in, cuffing the first fake cop as he sputtered. It was her idea. She told us to. The second tried to back away, but the sheriff barked, "Don't even think about it." And within seconds, both were pinned against their own SUV. The crowd was dead silent now, watching the whole spectacle unravel. People who just minutes ago were unloading coolers now whispered to each other, shaking their heads. "This is insane." "She tricked all of us," one man muttered. Carol, red-faced and trembling, jabbed a finger at me. "He set this up. He's manipulating you." "The HOA has final say. You'll regret crossing me." The sheriff turned slowly, his patience wearing thin. "Ma'am, your so-called authority ends at that fence line. This man's not under your HOA. Never was, never will be. You've got one choice. Leave peacefully or face trespassing charges yourself." For the first time, Carol didn't have a comeback. She opened her mouth, then closed it, her confidence evaporating under the weight of the flashing lights. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "Sheriff," I said, "she destroyed my deed. That's evidence, and she's been running a scam, convincing people this land is community property." The sheriff's face hardened. He pulled out his radio. "Dispatch. I'll need a unit to escort one female suspect in for questioning. Possible fraud, destruction of property, and trespassing." Carol's jaw dropped. "Wait, you're arresting me?" "Me? I'm the HOA president." The sheriff slid the cuffs from his belt, his voice calm but firm. "Not anymore, ma'am." And for the first time all night, the crowd actually cheered. Carol tried to pull away as the sheriff clipped the cuffs around her wrists. "You can't do this to me. I run this neighborhood. Without me, there's chaos," she screamed. But nobody rushed to defend her. The same people who once obeyed her orders now shook their heads, some even recording with their phones. I stood tall, brushing dust off my jeans, and finally let the anger ease into a cold smile. "You wanted to turn my ranch into a parking lot?" I said softly. "Too bad. Now it's evidence of your crimes." The crowd chuckled nervously. Then a few clapped. Someone shouted, "About time!" and the tension broke into cheers. Carol's face twisted, but the sirens drowned out her last cries as the deputies guided her into the back of the cruiser. As the patrol cars pulled away, I walked back through the gate, my dog trailing close. The ranch was quiet again, the night air cool, stars spread wide above the fields. I rested my hand on the wooden fence and whispered to myself. They tried to take what wasn't theirs, but not on my watch. Music begins again, a more hopeful and thoughtful melody. This land isn't just dirt and grass, it's history, it's freedom, it's family, and no self-proclaimed HOA queen was ever going to steal that away. Didn't fight for this country just to be told I can't stand on my own land. You know, this whole thing got me thinking. It's not just about a property line or a deed, it's about what we're willing to fight for, what we stand for. And it makes you wonder, how many of us have our own way trying to take control of something that's rightfully ours? Have you ever had to face a situation like this? What would you have done? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Until then, thanks for listening.